Nawaz Sharif has been the three-time elected Prime Minister of Pakistan, and he entered in politics, I think, in 1981 as Finance Minister of military government. And most of his political opponents, and the history also tells us that it was General Jilani who, when he was military governor of Punjab province, he inducted him as finance minister in 1981, and then he became chief minister in 1985. And most of his rise and entry into politics is owed to the regime of General Ziaul Haq, who had deposed Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and imposed martial law in Pakistan. And he comes from an industrial family background, and his industries were taken over by the government during the nationalization phase. And that was one of the key reasons that Nawaz Sharif was pushed against the Bhutto family, and he was picked maybe by the military establishment at that time that he can be one potent force coming from Punjab who can rival the popularity of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. And one of his main reasons for entering politics at that time was that he may try to retrieve whatever company assets and company holdings they had been nationalized. And he had been successful to quite an extent, because the privatization policies which were initiated by Mr. Nawaz Sharif during his stints as Prime Minister during the 90s, that is the start of beginning of corruption, where a lot of state holdings which were earlier nationalized, the way public policies were structured, they were portrayed as if they are making losses, and then they were handed out to different political backers of Nawaz Sharif, his friends, and his business associates for very less amount, which also caused loss to the state exchequer. And even at that time, when his government was dismissed, corruption allegations were part of that.
Compared to what we know now, how wealthy the Sharif family is and what they had before, like maybe even before their companies were nationalized. I mean, what is the comparison? Is it just that they received back, what they had originally lost, or has their wealth just grown beyond, all proportions?
I think it needs to be found out what the family holdings were once they migrated from India to Pakistan. And Jati Umrah is a place in India from which they named their hometown Lahore, their place, as Jati Umrah as well. And some of the stories which have been done in what is called as Ittifaq Foundry of Mia Sharif, the elder Sharif, there are so many exaggerated tales about it, but once you look at their wealth returns which are filed with the, previously it was called the Central Bureau of Revenue, CBR, now it is called the Federal Board of Revenue, FBR. If you look at their tax filings, it doesn't come out as a big industrial family. And there were a few, only the Ittifaq Foundry, which was taken over by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, but there were much bigger families, the 22 families during Field Marshal Ayub's era, and the Sharifs never featured in that rich families of Pakistan. But now if you make a list of who is who in Pakistan, the richest families in Pakistan, then definitely Sharifs would feature in the top 10 and maybe in the top 5, because exact amount of their holdings as to how much is hidden in Luxembourg, in UK, in UAE, in Saudi Arabia, what is in different bank accounts in the United States, that wealth is not known. What is, however, known is that the tax filing of only Mr. Nawaz Sharif, that was a little over $1 billion once he submitted his returns to the Election Commission of Pakistan. And now once you take all the family concerns, like the different sugar mills, the steel industry, their overseas companies in different jurisdictions, then it runs into a couple of $1 billion, and that's a phenomenal increase which happened whenever they have been in power. And how that money got into their accounts, that is still a well-known, very well-kept mystery. And most of the investigations which started during the 1990s as well by the Federal Investigation Agency, FIA, they tried to unearth a complex web of money laundering by Mr. Nawaz Sharif, Shehbaz Sharif, and his close associates, including his finance minister, who is now declared an absconder by the courts in Pakistan, Mr. Ishaq Dar.
One of the things that struck me as interesting about this whole affair is the degree to which it's a family affair. You know, it's Nawaz Sharif and his brother and his children, and is it primarily a family affair, or does it go beyond that?
Well, the way this family was structured, and the elder of the family, Mia Sharif, the father of Mr. Nawaz Sharif, he used to run the family and give pocket money to all his children, including Nawaz Sharif and Shehbaz Sharif and the grandchildren. But after his death, and even if you follow the case in the Supreme Court, the inheritance which went to Mr. Nawaz Sharif, it's mostly you see assets which are in overseas jurisdiction, which came in the inheritance of Elder Sharif, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, and his sons Hassan Nawaz, Hussain Nawaz, and daughter Maryam Nawaz, and one other daughter Asma, whose name no one has ever heard. And then you look at the family of Shehbaz Sharif and the inheritance they got, it's mostly about business interests in Pakistan. And if you look at the corporate structures, either of Nawaz Sharif family or Shehbaz Sharif family, it's a close-knit family affair. Once this division took, in the case of Hudaybiyah paper mill, once you look at the directors and shareholders, it's only the entire Sharif family, the immediate blood relations, whether it's Shehbaz Sharif, Nawaz Sharif, mother of Nawaz Sharif, Maryam Nawaz, all their name, and a few cousins who are also mentioned as directors, and the other brothers of the Nawaz Sharif and Shehbaz Sharif in Hudaybiyah paper mills, the list of shareholders and directors. After the inheritance, once you look at the shareholding of Ramzan Sugar Mill, that gives you an idea that it is run by Chief Executive Officer Mr. Hamza Shehbaz Sharif, who is now these days the opposition leader in the Punjab Assembly. His other brother Suleiman Shehbaz, who has been declared an absconder by the courts in Pakistan, is residing in UK. He has the other shareholding, and most of these companies, you look at their directorship, who are the directors and who are the shareholders. So it looks more like a family affair, and the only outsiders in this case are their close family members, who are their cousins or related to the family in one way or another, or some of their business associates where the business merits that inclusion for a certain period of time, maybe as a corporate veil to cover up some activities.
Can we go a little bit further into how the Sharifs acquired their wealth? What we know about it?
Well, the joint investigation team, which was formed on the orders of the Supreme Court of Pakistan after the Panama Papers came out, it has done exhaustive work on this, and they have collected documents from Pakistani jurisdiction, including from the Security and Exchange Commission of Pakistan, all the companies which belong to the Sharif family, including the elder Sharif, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, the younger Sharif, Mr. Shehbaz Sharif. Nawaz Sharif used to be the Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif the Chief Minister, Ishaq Dar the Finance Minister, and rest of the family members. Their banking statement from the State Bank of Pakistan and all the banks where they had their bank accounts. The documents of their companies registered in the name of Mr. Hassan Nawaz in United Kingdoms, companies registered in Saudi Arabia in the name of Mr. Hussain Nawaz. Then the offshore companies which are like Nielsen, Nescol, Coomber Group, Flagship Investment, Flagship Securities. There's a whole list of companies. All this data was compiled, documents procured through mutual legal assistance, official documents were procured, and they were submitted before the Supreme Court of Pakistan. But then there was one volume 10 which was never made public. And what was told to the Supreme Court that these are requests of mutual legal assistance with government of Pakistan. The investigating authorities have written letters to foreign jurisdictions where they suspect some of more money has been parked. That volume 10 never saw light of the day. But in the Broadsheet Inquiry Commission, we got some clue that letters had been written to Luxembourg, Switzerland, UK, British Virgin Island companies regarding Nawaz Sharif, Hassan Nawaz Sharif, Captain Safdar, Ishaq Dar, and others. So this provides some idea that even in Luxembourg and Switzerland, they may have their accounts. But what is held there, how much money is held there, that is not known. You might remember one case of Habib Bank Limited, that being fined in New York, about $25 million on different counts. And one of the counts was a politically exposed person having the accounts there and some unusual transactions. And once this GIT report came out, it was Hill Metal establishment in Saudi Arabia, money going to the US, from US through bank coming back to Pakistan, which was being given as gift to the daughter of Nawaz Sharif, Maryam Nawaz, and ultimately landing into her account. And this complex web, sometimes money originating in UK, coming to capital FZD in Dubai, UAE, and from Dubai, UAE, some money Sharif family claims going to Qatar, or being this corporate whale of these companies being made in the United Kingdom in the name of Hassan Nawaz. If you look at the account balance sheets of these companies, which are available on companies.gov.uk, you download those websites and anyone can do that. You look at those, most of those companies during this time period, most of those are loss-making entities. So one begins to question as to what was the purpose of making these companies, that you make one company, it shows loss, you make another company, it shows loss. And once you try to link the financial train in each of these account statements which are submitted to the UK authorities, you don't need the Panama Papers for that. You manage to reach up to Kumba Group. From Kumba Group, you manage to reach up to Capital FZE. And all this where Capital FZE, where Nawaz Sharif, being the Prime Minister of Pakistan, was also chairman and sometimes shown as the marketing manager of that company. And that is, Capital FZE was the one on which Nawaz Sharif was disqualified by the Supreme Court of Pakistan. But eventually, the Evanfield properties, which were held in the name of Maryam Nawaz as the beneficial owner, as given in the findings of the joint investigation team, and then found subsequently by the accountability court, which sentenced them to multiple years in prison. That complete linkage gives you an idea as to how much amount of wealth is there, but to place a definite number, that whether it is $4 billion or $5 billion, that is not known. How that money is made, multiple times these questions have been asked to Sharif family, and the cases which are framed by the National Accountability Bureau, the main charge is assets beyond known sources of income. They have been repeatedly asked to give the what is known as the money trail, to justify how they made this enormous amount of money. And you follow the cases. Once this Panama case leaks came out, the documents of Mossack Fonseca, and the Sharif family's names were mentioned in that. He makes an address to the nation, he makes a second address to the nation, he goes and makes a speech in the National Assembly of Pakistan, the Parliament of Pakistan, goes all the way to the Supreme Court. But that critical question, where is the money trail, that they have never been able to prove. And during this process, it has been found that they have been also forging some of the documents, some of the letters, to mislead the courts in Pakistan. What is happening in other foreign jurisdictions, why the foreign jurisdictions are not taking up that question. If something has been found by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, something has been found by the Accountability Court in Pakistan, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, where is all that data relating to the Sharif family? That's still a mystery in Pakistan.